All right, here is a very cute Farm Fresh Trees porch barn door insert. You got 2 trees and the sign, and then the cute little lantern that goes in front of the porch, or in front of the barn door. I am going to go ahead and start color sorting here. I am using painter's tape to hold down my pieces. So I want the snowflakes to be white, and we will have to make sure to wipe off the scorching so that the scorching doesn't bleed through the white paint. I'm going to paint these black. This one should be pretty quick, so that lantern's going to be black. I want that to be green. I'm going to use Lush Green, which I'll show you my paint here in a minute. Get another piece of painter's tape for the items that I want red. So the little berries. I also want the letters for cider to be red. Or trees to be red. There's a little bit of dark scorching on that. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to run over a baby wipe just because. If you're watching this and you're not part of my Facebook page or know me from Whatnot, I do Whatnot sales, and I sell these DIY little kits. They just come with wood blanks, no paint, no nothing, on Whatnot. You can find me there under Forever Bloom. These little trees are going to be lush green, and I'll show you the paint here in a minute. Had to do a voiceover because my husband came home and he was watching TV, and I found the TV kind of annoying in the background, which I'm sure you're going to hear it in some other videos. I paint in my kitchen. And my husband's usually in the living room watching TV, and he likes the TV to be loud. He works in like a wood mill. They make lumber, and so he's kind of hard of hearing. He's also ex-military and was in the artillery unit, so his hearing is getting worse as he gets older. So here's some lush green from Deco Art. I really have loved this color lately. It's like the perfect classic Christmas green color. And I'm using makeup sponges to apply my paint. It applies a nice light layer with good coverage. And it dries really quick. I'm going to do lush green on the trees. You just want to be careful. There is a score line right at the base of the tree for the tree trunk. So I'm just slowly going around following the line and going around that. I will paint the tree trunk brown. And this will need another coat for good coverage. Go ahead and add green to this one again. Be careful around the tree trunk. You want to follow that score line. And this will need another coat. Set those to the side. And I'm going to use Algerian Crimson. I hope I'm saying that right. Sometimes I feel like colors, they just have weird names, and I have lockjaw, and so there's certain words that I can't say because it, like, my jaw locks up and it just doesn't come out right. If you know, you know. And this color will need at least another coat, if not 3 coats, for good coverage. I'm going to move this to the side. Oh, actually, I'm going to add another layer of lush green. I'm going to paint this lantern lamp black from Deco Art. You want to make sure to go around the flame. I'll show you how we're going to paint that here in a minute. You don't need to worry about getting the part of the lantern that's around the frame because we'll have that 3D piece that's right above going over the flame. And you can swipe or you can dab. It works both ways. That looks good. And this is the 3D piece I was just talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those 3 items black. You probably hear my dog getting a drink of water right now. I have 2 dogs. One's named Skyla and one's named Nova. They are both rescues. And here I'm painting the pot of the tree black. You don't need to worry about going clear up to the top of the pot because we got those 2 pieces above that'll go over there and give it a 3D effect. Here I am putting a second layer of lush green on. I think I'm going to use milk chocolate to cover this sign. I'm comparing two different colors, light cinnamon and milk chocolate. I like the way milk chocolate looks as like a fox stain on the wood cutouts. And you want to make sure to have very little paint on your sponge because there's engraving on this sign and you don't want to get the paint down in the engraving. So if you just use a little bit of paint and go over it very lightly with your makeup sponge, here I am using a baby wipe to do the fox stain look. And then I'm going to also paint this same way with just the baby wipe and give it a faux stain appearance. I'm not worried about the scorching or anything. I'm going over the engraving very lightly so the paint doesn't get down into the engraving. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the 3-inch round. And you can see here, I noticed that I got paint down in the engraving. And I get these handy dandy little Q-tip things from Amazon. I'm going to show you here in a second what those look like. They're really handy to get the paint out of the score lines and or glue. So I'm just going to use that and soak up that paint. I'm going to grab a little bit of water on top of that Q-tip in a second. Oh, I didn't do that here. You can make it a little wet if the paint's kind of dried a little bit, and that helps get the paint out of there too. And just go over the surface until your heart is satisfied. Looks good. All right, I got a little brown on this, so I'm going back over it with black. I'm a messy painter, guys. And here I am working in a small area, so it's really hard to get the pieces isolated and not around my other paint, but wiping off the paint from my hands so I don't transfer it onto my project because that's frustrating when that happens. Do it all the time. You think I'd learn by now. Okay, here we're going to use Warm Sunset and Marigold. Marigold is a color match to Deco Arts Marigold that I got at Home Depot. We're going to use a makeup sponge and do an ombre effect on the flames for the lantern. So here I am getting my sponge ready. I'm actually going to use a sponge that's half the size, so I cut it down. And then I'm going to start with the orange on the outside and work my way around the flame. This gives really nice, streamless color transition. And you don't have to worry about floating orange around yellow or anything. It's just simple, easy technique here. So here's the orange and the marigold, and I'm going to dab it on the surface to blend the two together. Just like that. With the orange on the outside of the flames, I'm going to just go around the flames. I'll have to do this a couple times to get good coverage. And of course, I need to move my camera so you can see what I'm doing. Still working on the best setup for recording painting tutorials, so bear with me. I'm going to get better. I do apologize. This is horrible, but I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Just keep going around the flames until it looks good. Love it. Okay, and now I'm just checking out what it looks like with the 3D piece over it. Wiping off my fingers so I don't transfer paint. Setting that to the side. And here's light buttermilk. I'm going to use that to paint the snowflakes. This is actually a really quick painting project here. It doesn't take long, and I'm not going to go too hog wild on adding too many decorative elements to it. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. The snowflakes will definitely need another coat. White is usually one. You need to put more than one coat on. All right. I'm going to go in with the crimson color. Okay, set that to the side. I'm going to go in with brown and paint the tree trunk. Be careful around the bottom of the tree. Just follow the engraved line around the base of the tree. And I'm using a small leftover piece of a sponge to get this area. And I'm not worried that I got brown down on the tree pot because the 3D piece will cover that. And you can always use a paintbrush if you're not comfortable going into little areas with a sponge. Looks good. All right, second layer of light buttermilk from Deco Art. Here I am looking at this 3-inch round, and I'm thinking that I want this to be the 3D sign here, the pine spruce fir, to be a different color. I think I'm going to go in with white because I just feel like it's too much brown with the brown background. Here I am just putting the pieces on top just to kind of get a better idea of what it looks like. And deciding that, yep, I'm going to make that white. I apologize, you can't see me going over it, but you want to use just very little bit of paint on your sponge and go over the letters very lightly so the paint doesn't get down into the engraved letters. I think that looks a lot better. here we are. We're going to start gluing pieces together. I like to use art glitter glue. And if I put too much glue on the item or piece of wood, I will like dab it onto the surface, like the brown paper, just to remove some of that excess glue so I don't have too much bleed through. Then I'm going to use my dotting tool to add a couple of dots to the project. I like to always put a white dot on the berries, just kind of give them a little bit of dimension. And then I'm going to add some dots to the foliage there. I like my dots. You could also float some white paint over the edges if you want to add a highlight. It's looking cute. Set that to the side and let it dry. Again, I apologize that this is not in the camera view. I did not realize how bad this was until just now as I'm doing the voiceover. But I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Here I'm showing you my sandpaper that I have 320 grit on there, and I'm just going to go over the flower pot with a light surface just to kind of rough it up a little bit, make it a little more rustic. Going over the second tree with the light sand. Just doing the pot section. Making sure to hit the edges to give it that rustic vibe. And gluing on the 3D piece. Perfect. Setting that to the side. Okay, now time to glue on the letters. And you just want to follow the engraved letters on the sign. Art glitter glue dries fast, but it gives you enough time before it's fully dry that if you need to move pieces around to get them lined up good, it allows you to do that. That's what I like about it. It's not instant. And the art glitter glue dries clear, so if I have any glue that comes out from behind the piece, you don't need to worry about it after it dries. I am gluing down all the pieces to the 3-inch round. Noticing my trees were a little crooked, so fixing it. Okay, so there's that. I need to add the snowflakes to the trees. And you can put them wherever your heart desires. And there we go. It is done.